Parts and labor sales, when managed effectively, can be made to absorb the greater portion of the fixed expense of a Packard dealership. This is accomplished by getting new service customers, properly selling all service customers, and keeping service customers, which can be stated more briefly by the formula, get 'em, sell 'em, and keep 'em. This film will describe methods which have been proven to be effective in properly selling service customers. A customer's first impression of your service department is formed when he drives up to the door. He expects the door to be opened promptly when he sounds his horn. If he has to sound his horn a second time, he doesn't like it, and a negative impression of your service department starts forming in his mind immediately. He considers that the delay indicates both a lack of efficiency and a lack of sincere interest in his business. Someone should be assigned the duty of opening the door promptly. Sometimes a slight delay in opening the door may be unavoidable. When this occurs, the person who opens the door, or the person who first contacts the customer, should apologize for the delay, like this.
Good morning, Mr. Burton. I'm very sorry for keeping you waiting outside the door, but we're swamped with work today.
Oh, that's all right. I understand.
When this apology is handled properly, the negative impression in the customer's mind can be completely erased, and the service salesman can start out without any strikes against him. When a customer first drives onto the service selling floor, he should be approached immediately by a service salesman ready to wait on him. If all the service salesmen are busy, one of them should excuse himself from the customer to whom he is talking, like this.
Would you excuse me, Mrs. Thomas? I'd like to speak to the customer who just drove in. I'll be back immediately.
Certainly. Go right ahead.
Go to the customer who has just driven in and tell him someone will be with him in just a moment. No matter how promptly the door is opened, every second that passes after the customer considered he has waited a reasonable time to be approached by a service salesman produces an ever-increasing negative impression in the mind of the customer, because no customer likes to be ignored when he wants to be waited on. Remember that when a negative impression is once established in the mind of the customer by making him wait for service, greater selling effort is required to convince the customer you are sincerely interested in his business. All members of the service department whose job it is to contact customers should concentrate on learning the names and recognizing the faces of the customers who drive into the service department.
Good morning, Mr. Lane. We'll have someone with you in just a moment.
A man's name, pronounced correctly, is to him the sweetest sound in the English language, and no sales fundamental is more important when first addressing a customer. When you do not know the customer, the words good morning or good afternoon should always be spoken with a definite voice inflection accompanied by a smile, like this.
Good morning, sir.
The tone in the salesman's voice says, I recognize your face, even if I don't know your name. The words spoken to the customer after the initial salutation should be a direct question which cannot be logically answered by the customer with the words yes or no.
Good morning, sir. What can I do for you?
This places the customer in a position where he can start telling you what he wants with the least possible loss of his time and yours, and you can start writing the repair order immediately, like this.
My name is Brady. The initials are J.W.
I'm glad to know you, Mr. Brady. My name is Dick Wells. I believe this is the first time you've called on us, isn't it, Mr. Brady?
Yes, I drove my car in because of a very interesting letter I received from your service manager, Mr. Thompson. Maybe you'd like to read it.
Right rear fender bent and scratched through undercoat. Tail light glass broken. Rear hubcap missing. Appearance good otherwise. Yes, Mr. Brady, Mr. Thompson writes personal letters like this to convince Packard owners that we have a personal interest in keeping their cars looking well and running well. We like to save our customers money by doing work on their cars when it should be done. We'll be glad to do this work of yours today.
Well, that's what I came in for. I'd also like to have my car lubricated.
I see from this letter that your home address is 316 East Woodside. What's your home telephone number?
62385.
Where could we reach you today if we wanted to call you?
My business phone is 23340. Now, when will the car be ready for me?
If this is all you want done, we can have it ready by 5 this afternoon. But as I said before, we feel personally responsible for the condition of your Packard. Could you spare 5 minutes of your time to ride around the block with me in your car?
I most certainly can, and will be glad to do it. You see, I use this car in my business, and it's a great advantage to me to have all the work done that needs to be done while I've got it in the shop.
Your brakes are okay for several thousand miles more. Your steering gear has a little play in it and should be adjusted before it gets worse. The steering wheel should be adjusted for position. The engine idle is smooth and about the right speed, but I'd say your tappets should be adjusted. Your engine pickup seems to be a little slow, and a major tune-up at this time would very likely save you money in the next 10,000 miles. Of course, that would include the tappet adjustment. Your gear shift is a little loose. We can tighten it and take out the rattle for you.
I wish you would. It's been bothering me for some time. I meant to speak to you about it, but just forgot it.
There's a noise under the hood that could be your fan belt. I'll look at it when we get in.
I've got a noise that comes and goes up here in the dash somewhere. I wish you'd see if you could find it.
Yes, I heard it, and I think I know what it is. It's your flashlight striking against the inside of the glove compartment door.
Well, that's a good one on me. That noise has almost run me crazy, but I never thought to look for the cause of it.
Few people ever do, but it's our business to look for such things. Now let's look under the hood. This fan belt is a little loose, and it's worn enough that it may break when you least expect it.
Okay, you put on a new one. I don't want that breaking while I'm on the road.
I also noticed while we were driving that your generator was charging all right. Your spark plug wires still seem to have plenty of life in them. I don't believe they'll give you any trouble for some time.
I was in a very heavy rain last week, and I came right through without any trouble.
Your radiator hose is okay, but you've got a heater hose here that could cause you to lose both your cooling water and antifreeze.
Okay, you replace it if you think it needs it. You know, Dick, you've got me so that you're really interested in my personal welfare and are not trying to sell me everything in the book. Now, what will be the cost of this additional work you've mentioned?
Oh, I'd say about $25.
Okay, you go ahead and do what you've mentioned to me. When you finish checking my car, call me at my office, and if the rest of your findings make as much sense as what you've already found, you can do that, too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brady. I'll do a thorough job of checking your car, and then I'll call you.
Well, that'll be fine. Goodbye, Dick.
Goodbye, Mr. Brady, and thank you for your time.
Not at all, Dick. Thank you.
Every service salesman should be able to check or analyze a car completely for work that needs to be done, and then clearly describe the work and the need for its correction to the customer, like this.
This fan belt is a little loose, and it's worn enough that it may break when you least expect it.
Mr. Brady appreciated this explanation and bought the fan belt. Also, listen to this.
You've got a heater hose here that could cause you to lose both your cooling water and antifreeze.
Okay, you replace it if you think it needs it.
To properly and effectively sell the repairs and services which a car needs, you must make the customer believe what you say. From this standpoint, service salesmen can profitably study the physician's method of speaking.
It'll be necessary for you to remain in bed for at least a month with absolute rest.
All physicians express themselves in a calm, positive manner so that you automatically accept what they say as a fact. Be sure you talk from the customer's point of view when giving your explanation, like this.
Your engine pickup seems to be a little slow, and a major tune-up at this time would very likely save you money in the next 10,000 miles.
Mr. Brady was interested when Dick spoke about saving him some money. Now, here's another new customer with a 1947 Packard 8. Let's see how Dick sells him.
Uh-oh. That engine threw out a lot of smoke when he gunned it to drive into the station. Maybe this is a ring job. Good morning, sir. What can I do to help you?
Oh, not much. Just a grease job and an oil change.
May I have your name, sir?
Yes, sir. Name's Canfield. Bill Canfield. Salesman for the gear works here in town. Just moved into town last week. I heard you guys are pretty good on a Packard. Decided to find out. Swell day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Do you travel much, Mr. Canfield?
Travel much, he says. Son, I travel all over hell and half of Texas. I got to cover my territory. Hit the road to the tune of about 25,000 miles a year. Say, son, don't call me Mr. Canfield. Everybody calls me Bill.
Okay, I'm glad to know you, Bill. My name is Dick Wells. By the way, how do you like your Packard?
Best car I ever owned. Think darn near as much of it as I do my wife. And come to think of it, gives me less trouble than she does.
How's the engine running?
Sweetest thing you ever saw. Purrs like a pussycat. Over 50,000 miles, never had the head off.
How's your gasoline mileage?
Oh, not too bad for a car with over 50,000 miles on it. She's running a little better than 15 now.
How about oil?
Well, no, that's a little different. Started using oil a while back, and now I have to add about 2 or 3 quarts between 1,000-mile changes. But that ain't bad. A car this age is bound to use a little oil.
Yes, that's right. But why don't you let us put in a new set of rings and cut off that unnecessary oil expense?
Oh, hell, oil don't cost much, and as long as it's using oil, it's well lubricated. Anyway, I don't want to spend that much money right now.
You may be right about the engine being well lubricated, but the engineers tell us an engine usually wears faster after it starts using an excessive amount of oil.
That don't quite make sense to me. Why should it?
Well, that's a good question, Bill. You see, the gases that push those pistons down are really hot. And when the rings wear to where they're not strong enough to control the oil, the hot gases blow by the rings, burn the oil off the cylinder walls and rings, and cause both the cylinder walls and the rings to wear faster.
Well, I'll be damned. I never heard that before.
So you see, by installing a set of rings, we can also slow down the wear in your engine. By the way, how far did you plan to drive your Packard before you trade it in on a new one?
Oh, I'm going to have to drive it another 2 years. Still looks like new, and hell, I just got it well broken in now.
I agree with you, Bill. It's still a good car. But if you don't buy a ring job now, your engine performance will get worse and worse during the next 2 years. And at the end of that time, you'll have a worn-out engine.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I suppose I ought to buy a ring job.
And another thing, even if you don't get a new set of rings, somebody's going to make you pay for a ring job anyway.
Now, wait a minute, Dick. How's somebody going to make me pay for a ring job if I don't buy one?
Well, we know from past experience just about how much a new set of rings will save you in 2 years, considering the 50,000 miles you drive in that time. I figured out, while we've been standing here talking, that a ring job will save you about $25 on oil and about $100 on gasoline. And that's not even considering the approximate $70 saving of a re-ring job. If you get it now over a rebore or rebuild job, you're going to have to get if you let your engine run another 10,000 miles the way it is now.
You know, Dick, you've really got me thinking. How much will a ring job cost?
That varies with the amount of parts we have to replace and the amount of work we have to do. But in your case, I'd say it would cost you somewhere around $100 to $125.
$125? That's a lot of money. To tell you the truth, it's more than I can spare right now. I'll have it, though, in a couple of 3 months, and then I'll talk to you.
Well, in a case like that, if it were my car, I'd consider 2 things. We can give you just an engine tune-up at this time for about $12, which will save you part of your gasoline bill. And then you could get the ring job later, but that won't stop the fast rate of wear on your engine. Or we can do the complete ring job now and make arrangements so you can afford it. You see, Bill, with customers like you, we'll be glad to divide your bill into 3 payments due in 30, 60, and 90 days. That way, the new rings will start saving money for you right away, and you'll be able to enjoy the improved performance of your car during the next 3 months.
3 payments in 90 days. Well, I guess I could stand that. Okay, Dick, I'd like to think it over for a few days, and then I'll let you know what I'll do. Right now, all I want is a grease job and an oil change.
All right, Bill. I agree with you. It's always a good idea to think things over. But In this case, when you say you want to think it over, you make me believe there's some question in your mind which I haven't answered. Would you mind telling me what it is?
No, there's no question, but... Oh, hell, Dick, I'll tell you what's bothering me. You see that car there? That's my living. It's the sweetest running car I ever owned. Hasn't given me a minute's real trouble. Gone over 50,000 miles without having the head off the engine. And to be frank with you, I'm afraid to have the head taken off.
Afraid? Afraid of what?
I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I've had so damn much trouble getting my car fixed right and fixed so it will stay fixed, but I'm afraid to have any mechanic take the head off for fear it'll never run right again.
It won't be that way here, Bill.
Yes, and I've heard that one before, too. But I've still had to take the car back 3 or 4 times, and even then it wasn't the way I wanted it. Finally, I'd give up and take the car to another shop and go through the whole damn thing again. I need my car to make money, and when my car is in the shop, I don't make any dough.
You know, Bill, I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. If I'd received the kind of treatment you have, I'd feel the same way you do. But our men know how to properly service Packards, and in your case, I'll talk to George Thompson, our service manager, and we'll both see to it personally that your car is right before we turn it back to you. George and I and all the rest of the men in the service department have many friends, and we have our regular satisfied customers. We've done a lot of jobs just like yours, and the customers were perfectly satisfied. Why don't you leave your car for a ring job? And if you want them, I'll give you the names of some of our satisfied customers so you can check for yourself.
You will, eh? You know, Dick, I like the way you talk. You sound sincere.
I am sincere. I want to have this job right just as much as you do.
Okay, by gosh, I'll buy it. Now, when can I get my car?
We ought to be able to have it ready for you by 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And if we can get it ready sooner, we'll call you because we appreciate just how much your car means to you and your business.
Well, there they go to make out the order. Not salesman and prospect, but salesman and customer now, because Dick sold him. Sold him uphill, too. Did it the hard way, but it was worth it. There's a whale of a difference between an order for a grease job and an oil change and an order for a ring job. About $123 difference. But for you to sell like Dick did, you must be well informed concerning the service jobs you sell and must be able to talk freely and convincingly concerning such information. Also, you must know how to sell and then move systematically to a final and definite close. Now let's see some of the important things that Dick did to turn the sale in his favor and finally close the sale. While attempting to sell a customer, let him talk as much as he wants to, and don't interrupt him.
Yes, sir. Name's Canfield, Bill Canfield, salesman for the gear works here in town. Just moved into town last week. Heard you guys were pretty good on the Packard and decided to find out. Swell day, isn't it?
Ask him questions, because the longer he talks, the more likely he is to buy.
Do you travel much? How do you like your Packard? How's the engine running? How's your gasoline mileage? How about oil?
Prospects don't want to be sold anything. They want to buy. Always try to make a prospect think he is buying and not being sold.
But if you don't buy a ring job now, your engine performance will get worse.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I suppose I ought to buy a ring job.
When the prospect indicates an interest in what you are selling, show him what he will save by having the job done immediately.
I've figured out that a ring job will save you about $25 on oil and about $100 on gasoline.
Listen carefully to what the prospect says, and be sure to remember you are well on the way to a sale when you hear him ask,
How much will a ring job cost?
Then, whenever possible, give the prospect a choice between what he can afford and what he needs.
We can give you just an engine tune-up for about $12, or we can do the complete ring job.
To help close the sale, when you see he wants what he needs, but doesn't have the money to pay for it immediately, offer him a time payment plan, such as 3 payments in 30, 60, and 90 days. In nearly every sale, the prospect reaches a period of indecision. It is your job as a salesman to help him make up his mind.
Okay, Dick. I'd like to think it over for a few days.
It's always a good idea to think things over, but in this case, when you say you want to think it over, you make me believe there's some question in your mind which I haven't answered.
To successfully close the sale, You must find out the real objection in the mind of the prospect.
You make me believe there's some question in your mind which I haven't answered. Would you mind telling me what it is?
No, there's no question, but... Oh, hell, Dick, I'll tell you what's bothering me. I'm afraid to have the head taken off.
When you know what his real objection is, sympathize with him.
You know, Bill, I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. If I'd received the kind of treatment you have, I'd feel the same way you do.
Then rapidly drive home convincing sales points that will cause the prospect to definitely decide to buy, such as,
But our men know how to properly service Packards. And we'll both see to it personally that your car is right. We've done a lot of jobs just like yours, and the customers were perfectly satisfied.
finally, close the sale on a simple point that specifically applies to the prospect's final objection, like this.
Why don't you leave your car for a ring job? And if you want them, I'll give you the names of some of our satisfied customers so you can check for yourself.
Ask him why, and don't quit until you get an answer, like this.
Okay, by gosh, I'll buy it.
Remember, to make your parts and labor sales absorb the greater portion of the fixed expense of your dealership, you must increase the number of sales made per day on the service floor, and you must increase the dollar value of each repair order. These two things can be done, but they must be done on the basis of rendering sincere, conscientious, guaranteed service.